Hello everyone, this is Rita KUSI with KUSI Consulting, and welcome to 30 Minutes with HR. This is our second episode, and of course this is AAU TV. This episode or this program is actually in partnership between KUSI Consulting and the Association of African Universities, and I hope you're tuned in live. I'm actually curious to know where our viewers are from. So if you don't mind, maybe you can drop a comment below just to let us know where you're watching from. All right, so today's show is really exciting because I have my colleagues here and I'm so happy to have them here. I've been waiting for this show since last week. I have Genevieve Puni and I also have Yasmin Boama. I'm going to actually have them introduce themselves to you. And yeah, and then I'll tell you a little bit about today's topic. So we'll start with you, Jen.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Rita. My name is Genevieve Puni. I'm the Managing Director or the HR Practitioner for RecTrain Services Limited, which happens to be an HR solutions company. So we provide everything HR.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Boama, and I am the Director of African Bagg Recruitment. And we provide recruitment, training, and payroll services.
So are you ladies excited for today's program? Because I sure am.
It's been a while.
It's been a while?
Like this. So
all right.
Yeah, we're very excited. Yeah.
Good. I'm very glad to have you here. So
thank you.
What we try to do is when we have this program, we want to provide advice and we want the conversation to benefit both employees and employers. And of course, by employers, we also mean entrepreneurs. So today's topic of discussion is about job searching strategies for job seekers, employees. And then we also want to talk about talent acquisition for employers. How do they go about finding the right talent? Yeah, so I shared an article with you all, during the week, where the World Economic Forum did a survey, of about 15 different countries. And that survey was to identify the 10 top skills that will land you high-paying jobs by 2020. So I'm going to read off this list and then we can have a discussion around it, okay? So first on the list is complex problem solving, critical thinking is number 2, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation skills, and cognitive flexibility. Yeah. So this whole article pretty much talked about the future of work and the future of jobs, right? And how there's a lot of technological advancement now with job searching and also with recruitment. Now, when we talk about the African continent, how relevant is all of this to us? You know, so when let's say when employers are hiring, what should they be looking out for? When employees are looking for jobs, what should they look out for? So which of these do you think really matter here to us on this continent?
Well, first off, I think that when employers are looking to employ staff, they really need to look at the attitude of the person. So, for example, if the employee to be is maybe perhaps a graduate, it's very hard to know what sort of student they are and they don't have experience and all that sort of thing. So my suggestion is to look at perhaps the projects that they've done. Okay. So sometimes it's not really about your A class, you know, getting a 2, 2, 2, 1, the grades. It's really about your attitude towards work, your attitude towards being responsible for the work that's been given to you. So coursework, project work, team work that you're doing, what's your attitude towards it? Are you the kind of student that can identify the different skills in your team, in your group? Are you a leader? You know, what are those sorts of things? You're marked on these things in some universities. So I think employers really, especially that they are dealing with graduates, they need to look into these projects, you know, search into these, how well they have done in these skills, which are just as important as getting the A grade.
Okay.
And I think just in addition to what Yasmin said, really you're looking at, you know, the employers should be looking out for how can this individual person add value to the organization. And it's all about value.
Yep.
All the things you've mentioned there are pretty much things that most employers, at least the ones that we deal with, look out for, or we look out for on their behalf. And I think from the list, the recent one is the emotional intelligence one, which is becoming like a hot thing with regards to, you know, how people can use, you know, people's emotions to make certain buying decisions, whether it's an internal stakeholder or is an external stakeholder. So I think to add on to what Yasmin said in regards to the attitude, it's also about what can you add to the business using technology, even working within the teams, how can you use resources effectively, ultimately, which is obviously reducing costs for them and also giving you the opportunity to progress in your career. So, and also to do with the creativity side of things. You know, how well can you think on your feet? What can you do things so easy for others to be able to add on to it? So those are the things that employers really should be looking out for. And it's funny, this morning I was reading an article where, you know, they were talking about 3 things that employees look out for now is company branding.
Interesting.
Company culture.
So not just the employers are not the only ones. It's also an employee's world, right?
It's also an employee's world as well. So they're looking at the brand, they're looking at, you know, the brand, they're looking at company culture, and also looking at the responsibility that they have to make a difference within the business. So you look at it from 2 ways. They look want this and they also are looking for that. So it's just how to find the balance between the two.
Nice. Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, you know, because I think that a lot of employees have the perception that it's all about the job. They don't really have an input. But you know what? When you are searching for your career, you should have an input.
You should do.
When it comes to the organization that you're going to work for, when it comes to the responsibilities, you know, because that's how you get taken advantage of. And then before you know it, you're working at a job, and then years down the line, you find yourself miserable wanting to leave.
You know, and I think just to add on to that, Richard Branson once said that the people who work for the business are the ones that make it successful.
Exactly. You know, what do you have without the people, without your staff, right? Okay, very nice. All right, thank you, girls. So you're watching 30 Minutes with HR, and I'm here with my colleagues, Genevieve Puni, who works with RecTrain Limited, and also Yasmin Boama with African Bagg Recruitment. And I hope you're tuned in live, watching us on Facebook, on the Association of African Universities Facebook page. Okay, so now let's talk about CVs. Yeah, there was also another article I shared with you where a few experts, I think there's been some discussions lately about whether or not CVs are even going to matter. Are they going to even be relevant when you're looking for a job? What are your thoughts on that? How important is it?
I mean, I think we're having the discussion today. I think for me, it's still very critical. In as much as obviously we all love technology, it saves time, it reduces cost, and all the other things, and get a lot of things out to the masses that you're looking for. Yeah, there are certain things, especially when it comes to recruitment, the process. You know, clients are also companies, or clients or employers are looking for people who can fit, just like what we mentioned earlier on. As an initial stage, yes, the technology and all the other robots, artificial intelligence and all the other things can play a part in it at the very beginning, but you cannot miss the human side to it. So yes, resumes may fade out at some point, but you still would need that kind of human intervention to be able to ascertain whether this person fits within the brand the client is looking for. Because sometimes, even looking at the CVs, you can tell the sort of person you're thinking, or you have a picture of who you're going to meet. But then the confirmation or the affirmation comes in when you actually meet them face to face. So yeah, the resume may fade at some point, or it may even stay, but it doesn't really become the deciding factor, because you still have to have that human interaction to be able to say that person is the person for it or not. I don't know if Yasmin.
I agree with you. For me, I think it's good to have your CV. I love looking at CVs. For me, it just, like Genevieve said, it gives me an idea of who I'm working with. Is that this person, that do they have attention to detail? You know, are they organized? I can tell all of that from just looking at your CV. Have they taken initiative to ask somebody to look through their CV for them?
Okay.
Have they thought about who they're sending the CV to?
Okay.
You know, so for me, I just quickly either dismiss or look into detail with the CV. So it's another way of communicating to your employer. So it's for me, it's important.
Interesting. Yeah. So like, okay, so with CVs, I'm sure we've all received some very, very, very interesting CVs. Yeah. I know I have. Yeah. I got a PowerPoint presentation CV once, and I mean, talk about creativity, you know, but so what do you look for in terms of CVs? When candidates are submitting their CVs, what are some of the things that maybe they might want to take into consideration?
All I want to say is that when you're presenting yourself to me in your absence, you need to raise my curiosity. So tell me a story on your page, on your CV. That's all I'm asking. And the story should be logical. Okay. You know, so obviously when you meet someone the first time, you want to tell them your name and how they can contact you and the little things about you. And then once you get to hang out with the person a lot more, you get to know the friends, the families, and what have you. So pretty much you should see the CV as it talking to the employer, potential employer, in your absence. So how can you make it clear, concise, straight to the point that it can arouse their curiosity to say, right, okay, you know what, I'm curious about Yasmin with what she's told me, and I want to meet this person to see if indeed what I'm thinking is what it really is on the table. So that's for me what I look out for. Just tell me a story about in a very plain, concise, straight to the point of what I need to know, not a 16-page CV. Because usually, believe it or not, with that experience, it takes me literally less than a minute to know this person is the one or not. You know. So.
Okay. Yes.
For me, I like to look at. I want to know that you've looked at the job role and the job description, and you have tailored your CV towards that. You know, that's my main thing. Is just the job you've applied for, do you qualify? Okay. You know, a lot of people apply for jobs hoping for the best, and really they don't qualify or they haven't read the job description. So.
Okay. Okay, so in the second article that I made reference to is actually titled "The Future of Recruiting Won't Have Any Resumes." And I think the point that they were trying to make is that we are moving towards the future. I mean, actually now is the future, right? And resumes are more analog, whereas we're moving towards a digital world. So we're a digital HR company, a KUSI Consultant. All of our processes, from the time that the candidate submits the CVs up until the time that they're hired. The only time we meet them is maybe when we do a face-to-face interview. And it's been good because you're also able to consider candidates who are not just within our demographic, but a global, you know, level of candidates. So how can we also use technology when we are recruiting? I want to hear maybe some of the avenues that you all have taken in order to make sure that you're finding the best talent, but then also using digital. Yeah,
I think for me the process is pretty similar to yours, you know, as far as, you know, advertising and getting the candidate's CV through. Okay. Sometimes, depending on the technicalities of the role, we do all these short tests, which is timed. So obviously we monitor it and then we get the responses and then we do that. So up until, like you said, up until we meet you for the interviews, it's pretty much digital for us. And even when you leave, we always want to make sure that everything that we do, we communicate via email so that we have a trail of it. So you don't necessarily have to come back again. But in my operations, for example, we do it, once we get the CV, we get to meet them. So by the time the client comes back to us, we already met them, we know who it is. Exactly. So we just communicate to them digitally and obviously let them be aware of the role that's available, and then we take it from there. So at any point in time, we may see you only once, just like yours, but it's just that my process is slightly different because we get the CVs and we see them, and then afterwards we communicate via digital.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. And what do you think it's important to really incorporate digital into
Yes,
your
it is, because it saves time.
Exactly.
It really does save time.
Traffic, you don't have to sit in traffic.
It really saves time, it saves resources.
Yes.
Because obviously, I'm sure, as you can appreciate, with our line of business, our highest cost is telephones and data.
Exactly.
You know, so it's an easy process, to be honest, rather than in the past where people would walk into your office and drop the CVs. We don't accept CVs anymore.
I know.
You have to go strictly onto our website to register as a first process before we even decide to meet up with you. So
the future is here.
Yeah, and a lot of people complain about there's an application form on my platform that you have to complete. And that's one way that we actually sift.
Exactly.
Because my thing is, if you are really serious about looking for work, you take time to sit down and complete the form. So if you can't be bothered to complete the form, then it means you're not really ready to, you're not job ready. So that's one way to sift them, and we're all using technology and digital to do that. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, I agree. We used to do the interviews on either Skype, video interviews. But I have found in the past that it's actually easier after you've done your selection to meet them face to face. It's quite important. It's a bit of a difference. It's easier to read people, non-verbal communications when you're meeting them, especially when you understand the culture of the client, the employer. Then you can more or less judge the person that you're meeting.
And I'm sure it saves time, right? Because if we had to meet with everyone that sends CVs,
no, exactly.
You know, I'm sure you get emails.
It does save time, but for me also in our process, we do a group one.
Yeah.
So
smart way.
We do a group one because interviews nowadays is a panel.
Exactly.
You probably wouldn't get one person just interviewing. Usually it's a minimum of about 2.
Exactly.
So it gives you the opportunity to also practice in front of other strangers you haven't met.
Exactly.
And also it's also for networking relationships as well, because sometimes, believe it or not, through that we also get people who know of other jobs that's happening. So we do it in a group because obviously we feel that people can then be able to practice their presentation skills and interviewing skills.
But you wouldn't do that, let's say, for every role that you're hiring for. Like, let's say an administrative role, if you had some admins coming in, then maybe you might want to do. But if you're hiring somebody on an executive level, then would you recommend it for every role?
I would recommend it for every role, yes. I mean, because even if at the executive level, Skype, you can still, just recently we did a country director recruitment, and there were a couple of candidates who were not in Ghana. Wow. And we had to do the Skype interview, and it felt okay.
Yeah.
Like they were just there.
I like it. I like this digital way of recruitment. We definitely like it. All right, so thank you, viewers, for tuning in. So this is 30 Minutes with HR on AAU TV, and my name is Rita KUSI, your host. I work with KUSI Consulting, and I'm joined here by my colleagues Genevieve Puni and Yasmin Boama. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, be sure to make a comment, and we'll be sure to answer all of your questions. And we're actually going to go into like a Q&A segment shortly. But before we move on, we really try very hard to cater the content of this show to the African demographic, because we are talking more about the continent. And this is where we're based. We're actually now recording from Ghana. And in Ghana, a lot of recent graduates are getting ready to end their national service, which means that they're now looking for employment, or they're going to be looking for employment. So what advice can we give them as they get ready to go into the real world?
I think for me, the first thing I'll say to them is that leverage on the people that you've met along the way. Okay, it's about networking, and we all talk about networking and everything, but it's more or less like a relationship building. So what have you been doing to keep that relationship of the people that you've met along the way in place? And as a result of that is your starting point to just, you can email them depending on what the relationship, and just say to them, listen, I'm almost through with my national service, you know, this is the opportunity. Is it possible maybe I could just intern, or even whether there's a graduate scheme program that you could, you know, you could join to enroll yourself in. Aside that, of course, you've got the usual LinkedIn, you know, which is also
platform.
Yes, and actually there's a new way of not recruiting, but most people actually applying for jobs is that they look at people's profiles and, you know, pop them a message to say, you know, I kind of like what the company is doing, and these are the things. So those are the things that, you know, you could do to make sure that you get yourself back in terms of working as well. I'm sure Yasmin will add a few more to it with regards to that.
No, I agree with you. I think networking is very important. I also would say that whilst you're doing your national service, take it seriously. You know, there's a lot of national service young students that I've met, and they don't even know what they've done, or they can't communicate the jobs and the responsibilities. They haven't cared enough, or they feel that they haven't been given enough responsibility. But have you taken the initiative to ask for more work? You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I know that they get placed in areas that they want to do. They're sometimes placed in a farm, or they're outside Accra, or you know, they're helping the police with directing traffic. Doesn't matter. Do it well. My thing is that you don't know who's watching you. You don't know who's going to be your helper. You don't know who's going to recommend you as a hard-working person. So you need to do it and do it well, and don't complain. Doesn't matter. It's not your job. Maybe you want to be a science student or whatever, and they've put you as a, you know, on a farm. Doesn't matter. You would maybe enjoy it. You know, maybe you'll meet somebody who would be who open doors for you. Just do it.
And I think in addition to that, you know, you're currently doing your national service. What are the loopholes that you've picked up in the company? What difference can you make? You never know. The last 3 weeks or the last 4 weeks may be an opportunity for you to make a difference. And somebody may see that and decide to keep you on.
Or you would, if you see the loopholes, you think, oh, maybe I can do this, and you can set up your own business.
So become an entrepreneur,
right?
If you see an opportunity for it. Yeah. I definitely like that. I think it's so true. And I think the issue, like you mentioned, is that a lot of recent graduates feel as though when they graduate, they end up taking on a national service role, and it's not really what they want to do. So then while they're within that company, they might feel as though I'm just here, I just want to get through this year, and I don't really care what happens.
Because they're required by law to do the national service.
But that 1 year can really make or break you if you take it into your own hands.
We meet people, they talk about national service like, oh, it's just a national service.
It's just national service. I know.
I mean, you picked up a skill from
you do pick up skills, and people should appreciate it. I started when I finished school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I will never forget this. I was doing door-to-door sales.
Me too. That's so
wasn't that difficult? It's so tough, and you don't get paid.
It's one of the hardest things in the world.
It's so tough, and it's like it's one of those things that if you don't do it, you don't get paid, and it's just like, oh gosh, I just remember being in the rain. It was so tough. However, this is a skill that I believe has taught me to be persistent. I don't give up. I do so many things, and I just do not give up. And I really think that this door-to-door sales is what has made me think, because you knock 100 doors, one person would open you. One person will open you. You know, so you keep going, and this is what's helped me today. Now I've been able to do so many different things, and it's tough, but I know that someone is going to open the door, because I've experienced it before. So I really urge, especially the young graduates, it's tough, it's hard, because you feel that, well, I don't have experience, employers are looking for experience, what am I supposed to do? Every opportunity that you get, it doesn't matter what it is, do it. Do it. Someone will open the door, and keep at it. Someone will definitely open the door.
It's so true.
And just in addition to that, you know, don't spend too much time on social media, you know, on the unnecessary stuff, you know. Read. Even if it's just you decide to read an article about an area that you have an interest in, just read about it.
Feed your brain.
Feed your brain with good
yes.
stuff. Because through that, believe it or not, yesterday I was trying to apply for something, and I wasn't quite qualified for what I wanted to apply for. But then something just said to me, email the contact and just find out, you know, state your case. And I stated my case, and funny enough, she came back and said to me, oh, actually, you know what, there's another program you could enroll yourself in.
Wow.
But that was just through because I was reading a bit about something that I picked up online, and it just, you know, there was an email address and the qualification, everything was there, and I just said, you know what, let me just email them and see what other opportunities are there. So, you know, we have to take every opportunity, just like what Rita is saying, but don't spend too much time on the Instagrams and the Snapchats and all the others. If you are, follow companies.
Exactly. Use it to your advantage is what we should really be saying. You know, don't just browse and then that's it. You're just and then before you know it, 2 hours has gone by. You know, seriously.
And you, the individual, as well. You have to prep. It's all about your attitude. It's all about how detailed you are, and all that kind of thing that's going to take you places.
I definitely agree.
Because it's so competitive.
It is competitive.
It's so competitive.
Very, very, very competitive. Because you're up against people who just finished their national service, people who are in their current roles and want to move up. So you're up against quite a lot of people. So don't just think that, oh, you know, because you're going to apply for this job, you're not going to do it wholeheartedly, or you're not going to put a lot in to at least get noticed.
Exactly. You know, it is an employee's world. It's also an employer's world, you know, but I think employees need to realize that they have to assume a lot of that control over their own lives, you know. So if you're on the job, you know, I think sometimes we forget why we're at a company, and we think we've been hired to just sit there, look pretty, say yes, smile, nod our heads, and that's not the case, you know, because employers are looking for employees who are going to come on board and help the organization to grow.
I mean, we have a couple of clients that when people walk in, we know this person can work for this client.
Exactly. You can pick it up. You can pick it up right away.
Because of the way they carry themselves, because of the way they respond to queries, because of, you know, just the whole demeanor.
Exactly.
You know, so you, as soon as you see it, you know this is an African Bagg person, or, you know, KUSI Consulting person.
It's part of your organizational
and we're never wrong
culture.
Sometimes.
It's part of your culture. After a while, you get to figure it out. And I like that you mentioned read, you know, because I don't think a lot of people do enough of that. And it's so important to feed your brain, you know, because I don't know how else you plan to grow without
reading.
Becoming knowledgeable. Thank you so much, ladies. So now it's about to get really exciting. We're moving into the Q&A segment, and then I will ask Yasmin and Genevieve to share some tips with us, whether it's regarding entrepreneurship or job searching or what do you call it, talent acquisition. Okay, so again, you are watching 30 Minutes with HR on AAU TV, and I'm here with Yaz, and I'm here with Jen. All right, so we're going straight into the questions.
Waiting for that moment.
What moment?
Jen and Yaz.
Jen and Yaz, Yaz and Jen. All right, so we're going straight into the questions, and the first question actually was posed on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform for young professionals who want to advance in their career. All right, so I'm a young lady. This came from Miriam Kwansa, and she says, I'm a young lady who had so much passion in air hostess or cabin crew jobs. I just didn't get the opportunity to do my courses related to that. How can I, or someone like me who still grew up with the passion how can I, or someone like me who still grew up with the passion, acquire her dream career? Do I need to still do a related course, or can a bit of work experience lead me there? What advice can we give, Miriam?
I think, you know, just to answer that, Miriam, you need to gain as much experience as you can. You don't necessarily have to go straight into doing a course in air hosting if you can, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure what the criteria is, and usually it goes with the physical, the height and the weight and everything. So first of all is look at yourself.
Do you look the part?
Do you look the part in terms of the height and the weight that they're looking for? But aside that, when you get the opportunities to also work, just go into roles that is more client relations, because to be an air hostess is pretty much about being quite personable.
Exactly.
Being able to, you know, deliver to the clients, being of assistance to them and stuff. And really, those are transferable skills that you can go into once you get yourself into that area. And who knows, you may even end up working in a hotel.
Exactly.
Which is similar to, it's not air hosting in the air, but it's still within the same sort
hospitality.
of industry.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll use myself as an example. When I was growing up, I wanted to be an air hostess.
Did you really?
Yeah, but I was a ball and short. I was quite fat and short, so I knew that was a dream long-lived. But then I realized that, you know, I talk to people a lot and I'm always curious and fishing about things. And I ended up in hospitality, which is quite similar, you know, being able to deliver to clients and stuff. So my answer to her would be, get enough experience as you can. First of all, look at the height and the weight in terms of what is required in all these airlines. Then move into trying to find jobs in those client service relation areas. And then when you feel that you're ready to go into, I think there are some technical courses you have to do. But if you can't afford it now, gain as much in client service role.
Exactly. Build your network. Yeah? Okay. Yas, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think Jen has said more or less everything. Yeah, just gain the experience, work towards getting your dream job, keep the passion, network. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, well, there you have it, Miriam, and I hope you're tuned in. So we're going to move on to the next question. This was also posed on LinkedIn. John Broby. He says, which is more right to do? Is it finding the perfect job to suit your skills and or accepting any job at hand with the hope to learn a new skill because the unemployment rates are high? Because most of us youth find ourselves in jobs that are not in our jurisdiction, but do them because we can't be idle. And I like the fact that he's actually realized that you can't be idle. Being idle is actually not a good thing. Yeah? So what can we say to him?
Yes.
I think I agree with him. If you can't find the job that you want to do, yes, do look for others that you would you can learn new skills, because you never know, you might actually enjoy it and grow in it and be better at it. I'll give you an example. I had this chef, and he actually is an engineering graduate, and he went into engineering, but then he discovered that his mom is a chef, so he used to help her at the weekends, and he discovered that actually I enjoy this. I love cooking, and I love doing presentations and whatnot. And he's an excellent cook. His presentation is fantastic. And who knows, if he hadn't have tried, maybe he wouldn't be where he is now. And he says to me that most of his colleagues are still at home and not having jobs, and he's traveled the country cooking. So.
And I mean, just to add on to what Yasmin is saying, what is your dream job? Because like she said, you may have a particular, you know, maybe your dad or somebody that you admire so much was in a particular profession, and you think that is your dream job. But until you actually have the practical experience in different areas, it may not even be your dream job.
Exactly.
It may be something
else. It may be something completely different, right?
Different, just like what Yasmin said.
It's so true.
You know, because, or even if you don't find the exact one, you may find something similar to it that you enjoy so much. Because, and that's when you also get the opportunity to do internship, because it gives you that affirmation or the confirmation that, you know what, this is really not for me. Because even though I had a dream that, you know what, this would be such a cool job to do, but you realize that it's not me to do.
It's so interesting you say that, because I actually stumbled across HR by accident. You know, so when I was going to university, at first I wanted to do elementary education. I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, really?
So one day I was sitting in class and I said, do you have the patience? Can you really teach kids for the rest of your life? And I said, no, maybe this isn't for me. I tried accounting, and then I was sitting there one day, I'm like, it's kind of boring. It's not my thing, you know, the numbers. And then psychology, you know, and then I remember one day I took a marketing class, and it was specifically an advertising class. And sometimes it also has to do with your professor, right? The person that's mentoring you or teaching you. And I remember sitting in this advertising class, and I was like, marketing. I love marketing. So I actually went to school for marketing. But when I graduated, I was doing door to door. I was doing more of the sales than advertising, and I didn't really like sales because you can, I'm sure you're aware that's very, very, very difficult,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And somehow I ended up in HR, and it was, before this role, the longest I was at a job was for 6 months, bouncing from job to job, trying to figure out what I liked. And I stayed in HR working for this one company for almost 8 years. You know, so you never know. I think through trial and error, and then just interning, volunteering, you kind of figure out
and
exactly
I think most,
what you like.
if we have to do a survey, most people, if not at least 80%, may say to you that what they started off initially is not what they ended up in.
Yes.
It's not at
You
all.
know, and they're loving what they're doing
Exactly.
currently because of, you know, opportunities and taking what was coming along their way.
Exactly.
And, you know, at some point, somebody may see you, you may get through an opportunity somewhere.
Exactly.
Because me, somebody went on maternity leave, and that's how my HR started.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Wow. And you had to take that initiative.
Yes,
it didn't even just fall
initially
on your lap,
when I went,
right?
it was almost like, I knew I was going to work in a hotel, but I just didn't know it was going to be in HR. But then I found that people were coming to me, Jen, how do you do this? How do you do this?
Yeah.
My manager was like, do you want to be a trainer for our
Yeah.
department? I'm like,
interesting.
no. She's like, no, come on, let's do it.
Wow.
You know, so then I was training for the department, and then one of the HR assistants went on maternity leave, and they opened the role internally. I applied for it.
You applied for
the
it.
rest was history.
So the last thing you want to do, and I'm sure you're getting all that information here, is to be idle. You do not want to be idle.
Yeah.
You always have to keep moving forward, okay? So we're going to get to the last question, and this actually came from Miss Ajwa on Instagram. And she's based, I believe she's in the US, and her question was, you guys need to do a podcast for how Africans abroad can connect with employers on the continent, or who have positions on the continent for potential job opportunities. So I mean, yeah, obviously we're not doing a podcast, but since we're here, you know, I don't want us to ignore her question, because I do get a lot of inquiries on LinkedIn about people who want to connect with the continent and come back. I mean, how do they do that?
I think for me the most important thing, again, I'll refer you with technology, is to go onto LinkedIn and follow the companies that potentially have an interest in want to work with in Africa or on this part of the continent. But importantly is also that you have to also reevaluate everything, because the standard of living in the US or you know, another continent other than Africa, or even particularly just in West Africa, is completely different to East Africa or North Africa.
It's different, yeah.
So you've got to also do your little homework to see what the salary rates are. You know, moving back, what are the things that I can, you know, adjust to? Because you may not, and there are some people who, you know, thankfully they've come back and they're on the same salary because they were poached, they were headhunted and stuff. But if you happen to be in a situation where you are the one looking for the work, then you need to actually relook at exactly what your expenses is going to be. Is it possible that you can move at home, move home for a couple of years before you move out and that kind of thing? So, yes, I mean, there are a lot of companies who do a lot of international recruitment. Yasmin does, I do, Rita, you do. So keep checking our websites, that's one.
Exactly.
Keep checking on LinkedIn. And also, with regards to, you know, moving back, do your, you know, homework well to see what is actually on the ground before you even decide to move. But because sometimes when we get candidates where we do all the whole interviews and everything, and then they realize that, you know what, the pay is too small, they can't move because of, you know, whatever responsibilities they have. But the standard of living is quite different to that. It really
is. I mean,
for me, until I see the one-way ticket, it's a bit different.
No, and I mean, listen, I pay myself very little compared to what I was making in the US. It's a major life adjustment, and you have to be mentally, emotionally prepared for it. Yeah. You know? Do you have anything you'd like to?
And you have, yes, definitely have to be ready, because there's a culture difference as well.
Yes,
so
definitely.
You have to be ready for that.
Definitely.
I think most companies now are, you know, local content, looking to recruit locally and train people that they hire. Now, if it's a technical skill that they can't find in this country, is when they start looking out. So then again, as you've both rightly said, is then the salary.
Exactly.
You know, are they going to move you and your family back, or are they going to train someone here that can do exactly the same job? So
Okay.
So
and if you want to become an entrepreneur in Ghana or wherever on this part of continent, think through it properly.
Think through it. Okay.
Think through it. That's all I'll say.
We're going to get to that part because I'm going to ask you ladies to share some tips.
Oh, gosh.
And you can share some entrepreneur tips. But before that, so we have one question that just came in from one of our viewers actually, and he wants to know how do you distinguish between talent and experience? How do you, is that the question? So distinguishing between talent and experience.
I'm not quite sure what he means by talent and experience.
I think he's probably trying to say like, you know, there's some people who obviously experience. We all get experience, but then it's like the talent aspect. So does experience beat talent?
I mean, talent is a natural thing that comes to everyone.
Yes.
Exactly. And experience you can learn on the job.
Exactly.
So I may have experience in HR, not necessarily the talent of being an HR practitioner.
Yeah.
So the difference between is that what are you naturally good at?
Okay.
And that is your talent that you obviously can leverage on. But then when it comes to experience, somebody can sit behind and become an accountant where they look at the theories and technicalities of things and have that experience under the belt, but not necessarily the talent to be able to do that. So
and also to add to Genevieve is that the good thing about having experience is that you can sort of judge or foresee mistakes or avoid certain mistakes or have a good judgment on things or be negotiating better perhaps. And then, you know, like she said, talent is something that you're good at, but you know, it goes hand in hand, I think.
So talent is something that, let's say, you may already have before you start the job, but then you acquire the experience as you go, right? So obviously it puts you in a good position, and if you have both the talent and the experience, And
I think it links, not that I think, I know it links to obviously the passion thing, because obviously if you're naturally talented at something, you love doing it.
Exactly, and it doesn't feel like work. Well, thank you ladies for joining us today, and thank you viewers for tuning in. Again, this is episode 2 of 30 Minutes with HR. I'm Rita KUSI, your host, and I'm here with Genevieve Puni of RecTrain Limited and Yasmin Boama of African Bagg Recruitment. So now we have come to the very end where I'm going to ask today's resource professionals to share some tips with us, whether it has to do with job seeking, talent acquisition, or entrepreneurship. What can you tell our viewers?
I think in one word, I mean, I said this in my office and my girls were laughing their heads off because I said, if you're thinking of going down the route of entrepreneurship, think twice. Just make sure you're not making certain decisions under the influence of alcohol, but just that and think through
Only alcohol though?
And just think through with regards to the environment. You have to do your homework thoroughly. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because it does not come easy. You work 24/7, and that's what it is. So if you're the type that you can't deal with 24/7, you can't actually live to the values of what you are actually existing for, then don't even start it. That's all I would say. And for a job seeker, prep before you come through.
Nice. It's very true. You
know, and for an employer, be flexible.
I want to add, no, those are actually very good points, because I want to add, I shared a quote sometime this week where I think I said every master was once an apprentice, every entrepreneur was once, every great entrepreneur was once an employee, and I'm sure there was some other thing, but the point that I was trying to make is that it's okay to be an employee and work for someone and acquire. You know, I don't think we just got up one day and said, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. You know, it took time, it took a lot of thinking for us to really be sitting here today.
Maybe not thorough thinking enough.
Maybe not thorough thinking enough, because sometimes you do want to turn back. You do want to, I'm not going to lie.
And sometimes I do miss the
going to the office, going to events with your colleagues.
Exactly.
Oh, you can tell us about that. Being an entrepreneur and being a mom. How's that?
You know, some people say that, Yasmin, you're just so lucky. You could go to the office when you want, or you could, you know, take your baby to the crash and then go to the office. But what people don't understand is that behind the scenes, you're working. The hours that you've missed, you've got to put it in. There's just so much going on. I can't just go to work at 9 to 5 and know that I'm done, finished. I'm going to pick up my baby and then I can enjoy my time with with my family. No, I come back and I'm still working, even if it's from home and all that. So it's a challenge. It's quite challenging. So
it's rewarding at some point.
You have to be passionate about it. You have to be persistent. You need to understand what you're doing, and it's okay to be an employee. You can be an entrepreneur in your own an organization.
Exactly.
You can bring those skills on. You can be innovative, like we talked about. You can you know, be creative and do all that, and still have the cushion of getting your salary at the end of the month.
Exactly. I actually recommend that at the beginning, when you start to think about becoming an entrepreneur. It's fine to still have a 9-to-5, and you can still have your side job, right? Because you're setting up. You need a balance.
You just have to balance it.
You need a balance.
But if you decide to go in full time, just be aware that, just like what Yasmin said, we just don't do 9 to 5. Yeah. Some of us, we wake up and
it's a lot.
You have to deliver to what you promise the client, and that's what makes them stick with you.
Exactly.
So even if it means burning the midnight candle, but of course you have to have the work-life balance as well.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find the balance between the two, and having to be up burning the midnight candle just to deliver a report or a particular thing.
Exactly.
You have to think through it, because it's not for the slight. It's not for the, what they say, faint-hearted.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
I remember we were on a Skype call once, and then we were all, the three of us were on a Skype call with a potential client, right? And then you were, you had the baby there, and we're just like, oh, wow, this is.
But she did well.
You did well. You did well. Serious multitasking. Serious multitasking. All right. So, is there any other tips that we would like to?
I think we mentioned it. I mean, for the job seeker, make sure that you prep very well.
Okay.
You're very thorough.
Nice.
Funny enough, a couple of days ago, I had an interview with a gentleman, and all he kept saying was, the details you're looking for is on my CV. And I was like, okay. But then eventually, he got the picture.
Yeah.
Through a little talking.
Exactly.
Because I said to him that, you're supposed to tell me what it's supposed to be, but he kept just saying. And I was like, so I knew that this person wasn't very thorough and very detailed, and a little bit of I know it all kind of thing, but eventually we got there.
What candidates need to understand is the reason why employees are asking is because they want to see how you communicate.
Exactly.
Do they get with you? Do they click with you? I had exactly the same thing yesterday, and I was, because I was so busy, and I was just asking, so just tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, is there, I did this, and then that was it. I said, okay, no problem, that's fine. Joelle, would you mind taking over? Because I judge in a split second. Can I work with you? Can I not?
Exactly.
There's just no time. There's so many people after this job.
Exactly.
So.
And I think what they forget also about us is that they seem to forget that we're the gateway through to the potential clients.
Yes,
so they don't take our interview process very seriously.
It's like when they show up for the interview and
they don't take it. Yes, and then they don't take it very seriously. So for me, if you don't research about myself, about my company, what's the likelihood that you're going to do research on the client? So for me, that takes you off completely to start off with.
This is why I love the concept of us being here.
Exactly, because those are the little, you may think that they're not important, and one of them, funny enough, when the same gentleman, he said that, I'm in my prime, I'm a young boy, and I want to be able to make sure that I select the client's problem. I said, it's not a bad thing you want to do. But at the end of the day, I used to go for an interview just to see how marketable I was.
Exactly.
So every business started as a one-man business. That's what you've got to remember. But he was just trying to prove to the point that he wanted to understand how the governance of the business works and everything before he makes a decision whether we should put him forward for it.
Exactly.
And I had to let him understand exactly what it is.
And I think for employers as well, it's good to also understand your employees. Because I've had staff that I've hired them for one role and it hasn't really quite worked out. So then if you understand the personality and the person, you can actually move them elsewhere that they can excel in, they can grow. It's all about growth. It's a two-way thing. They're giving to you, you also help them grow and mature to the best of their ability.
And I think to the employers also, and even to the leaders or people with line management responsibilities, they're not coming to take your job. In actual fact, they are coming to do your work for you so that you can put your feet on the table and hold them
Learn to
accountable
relax,
for it.
it's
Learn to
fine.
relax and it's fine. So people managing is very, very important. How consistent are you when you're managing? Because sometimes people get set a task, they get given a deadline, in between the process of setting the task, providing the resources and the deadline, they don't even ask how the person is getting on till the end. So in as much as you're very busy as an employer or as a leader, you still have to make time to make sure that the person is on track.
Exactly.
And that way, the person knows that they're being held accountable for something, and even if something is going wrong, it is the right opportunity for you to take it. So manage them very well, and don't hoard things thinking that they're going to take your job. They're not going to take your job. They're just going to add value to yourself and actually make your work easy for you.
And then you need to think about how you can move and take, you know, it's to the next step.
Do you see how we lose track of time on this show? We literally have 5 minutes, and now I feel like it's getting so juicy, you know. But yes, I agree with you, you know, and we really want this to be a show that it kind of allows the employers to see maybe what they're doing wrong, and then employees as well to maybe see what they're doing wrong, right? So we hope to really share a lot of insights.
And I think resources is also one of the things, especially because with our candidates, when we place them and they decide to move on, we ask them, you know, what's it like and stuff. And sometimes people leave, and, you know, research has shown that a lot of people would leave within the first 3 months or make a decision to leave because they don't feel that they're rooted in, because they were not inducted properly, they were not given the right allocation of resources to do effective work and everything else. So we also have to make sure that we provide the resources that, you know, they need to work with it to make their work very effective.
Exactly. And the first 3 months is actually the probationary period. And that's when the employer, after those 3 months, they can, within those 3 months, they can decide to let you go for whatever reason. And you as the employee can also do the same. Maybe feel like you don't fit into the culture
and
of
most of the employees leave because they feel that the resources are not there, and they feel that they've just been thrown in without
supported.
They don't feel supported and don't feel like they belong to the particular you know, place. So you have to make sure that the first 3 months is very, very critical, because that person may decide to leave or they may decide to stay with you.
Okay. So we have 2 minutes. So very quickly, tell us, where can our viewers find you, and whether or not, do you have any job openings? How can they apply?
Well, so I mean, you can visit us on all the social media platforms, but we also have a website, which is www.rectrain.com, which is RECTRAIN. .com. Our telephone number, if you go on the website, because we have less than 2 minutes, you'll see our telephone number. Please take your time, read a bit about us, and then obviously you can follow through the process.
Any available jobs?
We've got quite a few.
Nice.
Currently, we've got some roles in Nigeria, which is a strategic marketing communications manager.
Nice.
We've also got a sales associate. For all various clients. We've also got a waiter. So we've got quite very dispatch rider.
Nice.
So all of it, we have it on our social media platforms and on our website for further details.
Perfect. Yes.
So you can find us on www.africanbaggrecruitment.com, and Bagg is B-A-G-G, so it's 2 G's in the bag. We say we give you a bag of opportunities, you see. And then, yes, we've got roles. We've got sales architects, we've got an administrator, we've got project manager. Please look at our site and apply.
Nice.
But read the job description,
and
please.
Don't call before you read.
Exactly. Don't
Because I'll refer you back to the website.
You're so funny. All right, so we have come to the end of the show. And at KUSI Consulting, we're actually going to be looking for an in-country development manager and also a development manager based in the U.S. So those roles will probably be published by the end of this week. We've come to the end, and there's just something I want to share with you. You know, at a recent event, I had the opportunity to speak with the CEO of Hubtel, which is formerly SMSGH. And he asked me, we were talking about to-do lists, because I think it's very important to have a to-do list, right, for everyday tasks. And he says, well, how about SMART goals? And I'm like, what? What are SMART goals? You know, and I probably should have known that, but unfortunately I didn't. So what I did is, you go back to learning. I went and I did my research. And SMART goals is literally setting specific, measurable, attainable, what is the R? Relevant, timely goals that you can achieve. So instead of saying, you know, I want to be rich in about 5 years, you can literally say, within this specific date, I want to have like 50,000 Ghana cedis in my account. You know, so you have to apply this same methodology to your career. You know, you have to map out your career, figure out where do you want to do your attachment, where do you want to do your internship. Do it in advance. Don't wait until a month before your attachment or your national service. You know, you have to plan. You have to plan your life strategically in order to meet your long-term objectives. So for job seekers, this is my advice to you. And for employers, like Genevieve mentioned, it's all about flexibility. It's all about flexibility. If you're looking to find an entry-level employee, you may not want to publish in the Daily Graphic because the majority of them are actually online. So you might want to go that route. So you have to be flexible and strategic in your hiring methods. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of 30 Minutes with HR. It's been so exciting having you ladies here. It really has. I have to have you back. We have to talk about something else. So, and thank you, viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, let us know where you're watching from so that next time we can just say hello to you. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Audio Jungle.